Let's move on to the very interesting topic called XPath based identification in Qtp. So called this XPath based identification has been introduced in Qtp from 11, Qtp 11. Earlier there was no option to identify an object using XPath. So like anyways Qtp identifies objects using its properties, right? It may be height, it may be a width, it may be a text, it may be an inner text or whatever it may be. Same like that, we have a property called XPath. Using that XPath, a Qtp try to identify say objects, web objects, literally saying the objects which are in your browser. Web-based elements can be identified using this XPath. So this provision has given us from Qtp 11. Clear? So now let's go ahead and let's discuss about a very important identification process called XPath. Now, so this XPath is most commonly used identification process in your Selenium. Whenever we are writing any code for the Selenium, basically Selenium doesn't have the same flow. I mean, there is no concept of object repository over there. So directly we need to give the elements information to the tool so that it identifies the objects for WebDriver. So we used to give the directly find element by its XPath, and this is for the XPath. So it will try to identify that XPath and it will try to perform the activity on it. That is what basically happens in the Selenium. The same concept has been taken up by our Qtp also. Now your Qtp is capable of identifying the objects using its XPath. XPath is nothing but path expression of a element. Path expression of an element. Clear? So now, before to that, let me show you a small example. First, let us conclude that whether our Qtp 11 is really capable of identifying the objects using XPath or not. First, we'll decide that. First, after checking that, then we'll go ahead like how to write our own XPath and how to integrate our own XPath to our existing test. Okay, the first part, let's see whether really your Qtp 11 identifies the object using XPath or not. Okay, so let's justify that. Let's go ahead. Now let me take an example of Gmail here. Okay, just click on record. And try to write some name, email, I mean to say, a simple task, and just click on stop. So script has been generated. Just click on stop. So when I run the test, obviously you know that it's going to write Kiran Kumar in that email, right? So how does the process happens actually? You know it, right? So let me show you that process once again. Test object model, I mean to say. Here we go. So first, it checks for the exact match. I guess you people do remember this concept, test object model. So this email, it should find the exact match. If the exact match is found, then it opens the description properties of that object. And according to the description properties, it's going to identify this object and will try to perform the activity on it. So you know this flow, right? So let me run it. So it identifies the objects and will write my name over there. So it has written Kiran Kumar. Now fine, everything is good. So what I am trying to do is, so let's move on to the tools in object identification, web based, right? So let me go to web edit. So let me delete all the properties here. Let me show you the same scenario once again. So I have deleted all the properties, even if I have unchecked the smart identification for the edit box, right? So if I make any operation on the edit box, basically you know that nothing will be loaded into object repository. So one thing, I have removed everything from the object identification, right? Let me perform the activity on the Gmail now. Just click on record. Try to write name and stop the test. Right? So just have a look on the object repository of this email. So not even a single property has been listed. So let me take the index type also as none. So now there are not even a single property which actually identifies that email uniquely. Right? Now let me run the test. Successfully it has written Kiran Kumar over there. So how? Why it has been writing Kiran Kumar even in spite of having no information in the object repository? So how it is identifying the objects? So for this, basically the solution is here: tools, options, advanced. As I said earlier, here Xpath. Learn and run using automatic Xpath. Just check off that automation Xpath, apply. Okay. Now guys, let's run the test and let's see how it behaves. Okay. So let me show you the object repository once again. It has zero information of that objects in the object repository. And even have even have unchecked the Xpath identifier, and let me run it. So here it's showing up message. The email objects description properties matches more than one of the object currently displaying your application. It's saying that I can't identify that email. Why? Earlier it has been identified. Why it is not identifying now? Because I have switched off that Xpath. Whenever I switch off that Xpath, now it is not letting me to identify that object. Okay. So even if all the properties fails in a web based, we have a final option called Xpath. By using that Xpath, your QTP will identify the object. But where is this Xpath? It's called automated. It stores internally. We can't view it. See here. Can I define it? In object identification, tools, move on to object identification, select the element called web edit, click on add or remove. You can't find anything called Xpath. Here we go. So we can't give any XPath here, right? Yes. So now this is how QTP identifies the XPath. So we'll keep this aside. Now let's talk about the XPath. Okay, so let's keep this aside and let's talk about the XPath now. Now it's clear that QTP 11 identifies the objects, web objects or web elements using your XPath, right? Now, so let's discuss what is that XPath, how to write your own XPath and how to feed your own XPath to the QTP. Clear? So let's have a look on that now. So actually XPath uses path expression. Okay, so XPath is a language which is used to gather the information from XML or HTML document. So from the source code, it will pick up the data. In the source code, we have a data, right, like tag names and all that kind of stuff. So from the source code, it will try to pick the location of it from the source code, not from the UI. Clear? Yes. So it uses path expression, like it's path of the object. Yes. Where it is located, whether it is in a table or whether what's the tag of it and what is the body of it. So like it completely scans your code and it will try to capture the data. Okay, XPath is a language which is used to gather the information from XML document. XPath is used by path expression is used by the XPath to identify components of XPath XML documents. Okay, so basically XML is used to identify object uniquely rather than combining a properties to make it unique. Okay, so XPath is one identifier. Just see it. To make it simple, we have a text property, we have a width property, we have a window ID property. Same like this, we have one more property called XPath. Simple. Okay, but this XPath identification started from QTP 11.0 that you can think. So, and moreover, this XPath, your QTP will not display that in the object repository. These are the points what you need to remember. Okay. If I want to give my own XPath, then how? That is the point. So for that, first we need to know how to write your own XPath. For that, you need to know how to spy the objects. So our object spy will not work for this actually. Yes. If I say a tag name, like it may be a different if you use the object spy. Okay. So your object spy doesn't suit for to write a XPath. Even it displays the properties, but even I will show you the difference. For this, basically we'll be using Firebug. To make it clear, let me write this in a notepad here. So basically this XPath is used by Selenium guys. One thing. Now, so how to find the XPath of an object? As I said, XPath is itself a property, right? So how to get that XPath? How to find that XPath? For this, we have a solution here. For Mozilla Firefox, we have an extension called Firebug. Mozilla Firefox browser, we have an extension called Firebug. So this works as a object spy for Firefox. Same like an object spy, it spies the elements, it will give the information of the element. In QTP, we'll use this object spy, but for the Selenium, there is no inbuilt object spy for it. So they will rely on some add-in. So for that, they have a Firebug as an add-in. Okay. So in that Firebug is an add-in, and to that add-in, we need to add one more add-in, that is Firepath. So this Firepath will give us XPath of an object of an element directly. This Firepath will give us XPath of an element. Okay. So if you don't want to take the direct XPath, you can write your own XPath too. I will explain you how to do it using your own XPath. Also, you can write it, or else directly it will give you the XPath. If you want, you can take that own XPath too, your wish. Okay. So now let's open the Mozilla Firefox. So all this Firebug and Firepath are already installed on my PC. Okay. If you want to install this at your end, open your Mozilla Firefox and just try to write Firebug, add in for Firebug, So you can simply add in the firebug first. Whenever you add a firebug, you will be getting this a insert like object here to your right corners here. I am highlighting it. So this is what firebug is. Once after installing a firebug, we can install firepath in it. Firepath. Okay. Whenever we install a firepath, after installing a firebug, install firepath, then we'll get this option here called firepath. Okay. Now let me spy the object. Same like spying. Click on element in a page to inspect. Just spy the object. Here we go. So automatically it will list out a XPath here. XPath. This is an XPath what is given by the tool. Okay. XPath what is given by your firebug tool. So if you leave that, I am going to explain you. If you want, you can directly copy this and you can use this XPath. Okay. Or else, if you want to write your own XPath, yes, we do have that option too. So for that, what I am trying to do is the one which is highlighted in blue color. Can you see this? Let me copy this for you. Let me write this in a notepad. I'm literally copying something from the source code, right? Here we go. Here we go. So this is a HTML document. So basically it starts with this here and it ends with this // okay. Now so just have a look on this code, HTML code. Now the first word after this bracket, this input what I have highlighted, this is what we call it as a tag name. What is that? Tag name. Tag name. Input is a tag name of that object. Tag name is nothing but class of an object. If it is a button, the tag name is submit or something like this. If it is a link, the tag name is A, anchor text A. So the input or submit or A or something, it represents on which object you are working. If it is an edit box, it will give as an input. If it is a button, it will give as a submit as a tag name. If it is a link, it will give as an anchor text A. Okay, so while writing the code, developer will use this tag name. Only by that it turns as a input or input box or so whatever it may be. So but basically this is what we call as a tag name. Tag name. And in our simpler language, I can call the class of an object in our Qtp term. Clear? Now, and after that, we have some data. ID is equal to email, right? ID is equal to email. Type is equal to email. So all these things, I can call them as a ID is a property. Type is a property. Email is a value. Email is a value. So ID or else property and its value. See here, for objects we have a property called height, width, text. Same like that, these are also the properties. ID is a property and value is email. Type is a property and value is email. But here in this incident, we'll call them as attributes. Yes, in our normal language, in our QTP identifiers using objects file, we'll call it as a properties. No worries, go ahead and call it as a properties. But here in a code, so basically from a developer's language, I can call them as a attributes. ID is an attribute. Value is email. Type is an attribute. Email is a value of it. Name is an attribute, and email is a value of it. Like this. Spell check is an attribute. False is a value of it. Here. And the placeholder is an attribute, and email, enter your email is a value of it. Clear? So literally saying properties and its values, right? So the first is a tag name and the properties of it, or else its values. So using this, basically we're going to write our own XPath. So XPath, path expression. Okay. So this is what, that's the reason it is called as a path expression. Now let's go ahead and let's try to write our own XPath. So to write our own XPath, we have a syntax tags. Okay. So we have a syntax. So let me copy that syntax and let me paste it here. This is the syntax. Tag name, @attribute, tag. This is your syntax. Tag name, attribute, and the value what you are trying to get. Okay, so this is what your syntax to create your own XPath. So let me create my own XPath for this object using the ID called email. Using an ID called email, I'm trying to create my own XPath. So what is the tag name, guys? Here tag name is input. Okay, so first move on to the input, means first check all the input boxes, means first check all the edit boxes in a page. That is what I am saying. Input, tag name, and what is the attribute I am trying to take? ID is the attribute. ID is the attribute, and what is the value? Email is the value. You can take anything, either you can take type, you can take name, anything, but make sure that it should be unique. So ID property, in a lot of cases it will be unique, so that's the reason I have taken the ID. Okay, so input is a tag name followed by @ID is equal to email. So I'm trying to ask my QTP to first move on to the input. In that input, try to check ID is equal to email. Whenever you find ID is equal to email, just try to operate on it. As simple as that. Here, now, can't I write this using, is that firebug needed? Can't I use this using object spy? So let's spy it and let's check it. So this is the email what we want to spy it. So just click on the object spy. Web edit, right? So just go it. Here it will say that HTML ID, the ID property what we have taken, right? HTML tags here, the tag name what I said. Here it displays it as a HTML tag, like input, right? So what the tag what we have taken, even we have taken the tag as, here we go, input, right? So ID is email. Okay, so here it displays as HTML ID and HTML tag name. So if you want, you can take the name property. So like this, if you want, you can use the object spy to HTML ID and it displays as a HTML ID and HTML tag. So this directly we can pick the data, but there it clearly explains you what is the tag attribute and what are the tag name it, because we are trying to capture it from the code, right? So that is the reason to show you that I have taken up that. If you want, you can use the object spy too, but it's good like it directly give you the input, like it's a tag name. In that you can select the attribute and you can go ahead. Clear? Now, so I have written my own XPath. Chalo, by this XPath I can identify that object uniquely. I have got my XPath. Now it's fine. We are very happy with this. But how to use that? Where do I paste that? Right? Where do I use this XPath? I have my own XPath. Yes, Qtp saying it's an automatic XPath. If Qtp identifies that, then it identifies it automatically. So we are not going to do anything for it. But if I want to write my own XPath, I have written my own XPath. So how to use my own XPath? So that Qtp uses that XPath as a property and it will try to identify that object. Here it's saying that it can't identify the object using that property. The properties are not sufficient. See, here I am talking about a property, right? If I have a property without using object repository, also I can execute a test if I write directly that property in the script, right? So here in this case, I can use this XPath as a descriptive programming. Okay. So we have two options. The first option is you can use this XPath as a descriptive program. I guess you have a clear idea on descriptive programming. We have done a lot of tasks on a descriptive programming, right? So what is the descriptive programming? Simply object class. Object class in the sense it may be edit box, list box or drop down, so whatever it may be. Object class followed by description property and description value, right? So this is basically the static descriptive programming. So in place of description property, we need to use XPath, and description value is the one what we have just created. Here we go. So XPath is a property, right? And what is the value of it? The thing just what we have created. Here we go. So web edit, try to identify the object using XPath, because don't move on to the object repository now for the web edit. Clear? So I have no information in the object repository regarding that. So directly identify that using XPath. Like this, we can directly provide that to the tool. Let me run it now. So it identifies this object using XPath and we'll try to write name in the name edit box. Absolutely done, right? So this is how the XPath is used whenever the complex objects exist in your application. Okay. Now, still, I don't want to use it as a XPath. I want to use using object repository mechanism. Then what is the solution for it? So this is one way. Okay. So let me comment it. The other way, using object repository mechanism only, you have a requirement that anyways you need to use the object repository for that object. Then what is the case? So we have a solution for that too. Let's have a look on this. So even we need to provide this XPath as an identifier for it. Okay. So web edit email dot set Kiran. This is what the general syntax what we have if we use the object repository, right? So anyways, if I run the test, it will throw an error message because I have no related information to that in the object repository. Okay, now let's move on to the object repository. Go to your email. It's nothing here. Now, so just have a look on this here. This plus button. This one. It will allow us to add a properties actually. Okay, just click on this plus button. Add description properties for that email. I'm adding a description property for the email. Here in that list we have a Xpath here. Xpath. Here. So there are a lot of properties. Here we have a Xpath as an identifier. In the object identification, we don't have this Xpath. If you have that in the object identification, so directly we'll add Xpath over there. Why to use it? Okay. But here Xpath may be dynamic in some cases. I will explain you where Xpath may not be used. So in our case, it's not such focus on Xpath. If it is a Selenium, basically we used to focus on Xpath because Xpath may change actually. Even that has a lot of scenarios where Xpath is a dynamical. I mean to say, I will explain you that. But before to that, see here Xpath. So here we can add the Xpath. So Xpath is a property, and what the value you want to use? This is the value what I am going to use, not this. So this is the value what I am going to use. Just copy it. Move on to your object repository. Here we go. Enter value. Enter your Xpath. So identify the object using Xpath. Yes. So whenever I run the test, you know the process. It checks for the exact match, email and image, match font. Once the match is found, it opens the description properties. So I have only one description property, that is Xpath. Using that Xpath, your QTP should identify that object. Let's run it. Here we go. It has written Kiran Kumar. So it has identified that object using the Xpath without any doubt. Right? So this is how we can use our own customized Xpath while running the test. Okay. So if one object is not sufficient, or else your QTP is not properly identifying the using the properties, so then basically we can use this type of mechanism from QTP 11.0, like it fully supports Xpath. Clear? Yes. So QTP itself automatically captures the Xpath. Just go to tools, in that options. No need to create your own, but just have showed you that even we have an option like this. There are chances that you will get this in the interview. So that is the reason I have taken up the topic. So learn and run using automation Xpath. Apply. Okay. Simply it will try to capture the data. Clear? Now, so this is what all about your Xpath is. Clear?